The Walking Dead, Season 5, Episode 1, No Sanctuary. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters, and certainly Walking Dead fans of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and I'm here to bring you a review, another review, I guess you would say, on the Season 5 premiere for The Walking Dead, titled No Sanctuary. Now, as always, my reviews do contain spoilers, so if you have not seen the first episode, trust me, go watch it, and then come back and take a look over here if you like. So, with that said and with that out of the way, I want to say initially that I feel like my only negative gripe or complaint that I could make about this particular episode, because it was probably my favorite of the series so far, or at least right up there in the top 2 or 3, was that it should have been the season finale of last year. I feel like the first half of last year of Season 4 was very much about redemption and can you come back once you've gone to that dark place. And by the mid-season finale, that had wrapped up. Rick could come back. He did come back. The governor could not and did not, and we saw what happened. Everybody was split, in their different ways. In the second half of the season was unfortunately, everybody was splintered and just fractured and apart. And really, the last episode, the finale of Season 4, was very anticlimactic in the sense that everything action-wise and just kind of, just edge of your seat, it happened in the first 20 minutes or so, and then at the end of it, having them locked in this train car to sit and wait for 6 or 7 months to wonder what happened, I think was a boneheaded move, because this episode had everything that a grand just season finale would have. Just the action, the explosions, we got a win, it was just really, really good stuff. So anyway, we're going to dive right into it. I'm just going to take a few of the sections that obviously I enjoyed, and then we'll kind of discuss those and go from there. So as things start out, we get a little bit of a montage. First, we wind up getting a flashback of these actual termites, whatever you want to call them. And we can see through the flashback that these were once good people, that they once did have this place as a sanctuary, and it looks as if it was taken over by other evil, hurtful people. And they were captured and thrown into what appears to be like a train car or some sort of room, and were systematically taken, and women were beaten and raped and stuff like that. And eventually they rose up and took it back from their oppressors. And instead of, saying, hey, let's just shut down the whole sanctuary thing and just fend for ourselves, they decided that apparently you should either be, you're either basically the lamb, you're the one being slaughtered, or you're the one doing the slaughtering, right? And I really didn't like that whole mentality, because it does show that certainly times like these, the post-apocalypse and everything else, can bring out the worst in people. But how do you go from good people taking others in to, okay, we've kind of been punished, so to speak, they looked at it for their good deeds, and then, hey, let's just lure people in, and the ones that join us, and the ones that don't, we just kill and we eat. How do you go? That's a little bit of a jump for me, but anyway, we do get that background and that backdrop. But one of the first actual scenes of the episode, and one of them that was shown in the previews, is it's Bob, it's Daryl, it's Glenn, and it's Rick being taken. They're obviously tied. They're bound over with some others, and they're bound over a trough in like what appears to be like a meat packing plant. And I've never seen anything initially just so graphic on like a cable television show, like I should say like a network cable television, because that's obviously what AMC is. It's not like HBO where it gets real hardcore, or like Cinemax or Showtime. And they just start bashing dudes in the back of the head to knock them out, and then slitting their throats, and then they fall over into the trough, and they just drain out their blood. Now, anybody who's ever actually hunted, you realize that this is the way that you actually go and take an animal. Once you kill them, you skin them, you drain the blood before you actually cook them and eat them. So they're trying to be cool and sanitary, but boy, this is some next level shit as far as just out there meter, I think, One of the things that I enjoyed is Gareth, this little kind of emo punk leader of these termites, I guess you would call him. He goes and asks Rick about the bag that they hid in the woods. His spotter saw him and everything else, so we knew that they were seen coming from a mile away, even though they came through the woods and everything else. Rick winds up eventually, after he's kind of pressured into saying something, Gareth, threatens to kill Bob to take out his eye. Rick goes and explains to him what's in there, all these different weapons. He goes through and lists them, right? And then when he gets down to the end, he said, there's a machete with a red handle. It's the one I'm going to use to kill you. And what I liked about that is Rick is on the chopping block, okay? He's about 2 seconds from death. Like, Gareth could just go and do away with him and stab him in the face right there and take him out. Rick feels like he's got nothing to lose and he's not going to do it. And that switch, since the end of Season 5 when he tore that dude's throat out, has been flipped. And I feel like Rick is now just very calm and cool and matter of fact in his brutality. It's just like, I have to do this to live, and this is what I'm going to do. But I like how he tells him how he's going to die. And I feel like that's going to wind up coming full circle, maybe in a few episodes, maybe by the mid-season finale, and that Rick's actually going to put that machete into Gareth's head. At least I hope so. But the shit winds up hitting the fan, though, very quickly. One of the things that I thought was real nice is the way that it went back and forth and kind of showed everything in the timeline. Right after the events of last season's episode, The Grove, which was a very, very sad, just disheartening, a very, very down episode. And that was the one where Carol obviously wound up having to put down Lizzie, that little girl who was a little bit crazy, a couple sandwiches shy of a good picnic. We wind up seeing the aftermath of that and her and Tyrese walking with Judith along the train tracks. And Tyrese is still just emotionally distraught and broken. I'm going to do a separate video at some point on Tyrese, though, because I think that Tyrese is a little too emotional. And I think that since he's been introduced, he's really, he's the bitch of the group, man. He never once asks about his sister Sasha during the entire thing, but he keeps talking about Karen and how she haunts his dreams and she's in his dreams. Dude, Karen's dead. Get over it, okay? I'm sorry, bud, but get over it, okay? Carol killed her, whatever. Now, why don't you focus on the living, okay? You're with Carol for temporarily here and looking for the others. You never once mention if your sister's still alive, right? Anyways, we wind up seeing the events, though, and how they wind up coming upon Terminus. First, they wind up running into and kind of dodging a huge herd of zombies that's going. And then they wind up going and actually hearing a bunch of gunshots, which was all the gunfire that happened from the end of last season when everybody was herded into the train car A. And you kind of get to see that all from their perspective, which I really like how they did with the timeline. And then they wind up coming upon one of these guys from Terminus that's out setting up flares. Apparently they go and coordinate it when there's things like this that happen with the gunfire. They know it draws the walkers in, and even though they have fences, they don't want to sit there like they did at the prison, I guess, and take them out. So what they do is they do a coordinated thing away from at key points around Terminus, which I thought was very clever, and they fire off flares and things like that, probably the fireworks that make sounds, to draw the zombies, the walkers away, right? Anyway, this dude winds up, and this was the convenient part of the episode, he's talking on the walkie-talkie about the chick with the sword and the kid with the hat, and Carol comes up and walks up on him and is like, yeah, we're friends with the chick with the sword and the kid with the hat, you know? So she winds up tying a dude up or whatever, or sitting him down, however the hell they did it. I think he actually was. He was bound up or whatever, his hands were at least. And she leaves Tyrese and the baby with this dude and then says, I gotta go take care of some business. And this is like Rambo Carol, right? Carol, I rewatched all the seasons with my wife in the off-season leading up to season 5, and Carol's progression as a character is probably one of the best in the series. They've done a great job with Rick, I believe, as well, but Rick was always a very strong character. Rick, they've dealt with his moral ambiguity throughout the series. First it was we don't kill the living, and now he kills anything that gets in his way, and he's completely done a 180, and he's become, in a lot of ways, what Shane was in the first and second season, and he was telling Rick he's going to need to become to survive in this world. But Carol, I mean, think about it, from this abused housewife, who was just scared of her own shadow, really kind of a terrible mother in a lot of senses, I think, anyway. She never really went out looking for Sophia. And to where she's come now, to this point, she's now very much a doer. She gets things done. And that's what she does. And that's what she winds up coming in there and going and taking out a gas tank, a big gas tank that they have, blowing up a shitload of zombies, but in the interim, obviously blows a hole in the fence to Terminus, and then this huge herd of walkers that she's aware of that are going there anyway are now drawn there, and she leads them right to there. She's got blood smeared on her from the zombies. She's got a poncho with this. She winds up walking in right with the walkers, which I thought was just done so well. And as this all happens and the explosion happens and everything, it's right before they're about to bash Glenn's head in and slit his throat, man. Glenn was on the chopping block so many times that I was sitting there like, but I was thinking in the back of my mind, they're not going to kill a main character in the season premiere. It's really anticlimactic and pretty stupid to set the tone of the season. I believe season 3, that season really wanted, if they set a negative tone by killing Lori and T-Dog in the 3rd or 4th episode, and then it was just a series of downs after that. No wins, downs, you know. And people are not going to continue to watch a show that makes you depressed week in and week out. You got to have a win every now and then, and this was the win. Winds up, the explosion happens, Rick and them are knocked back. Rick has himself a shiv that he wound up getting from the train car, right? He gets himself free, and the two guys, the butchers that he's left with, and this is really a grisly scene too, as we go and as they're coming into this room, we see cadavers and bodies and things there before and afterwards once they go to escape. And it's really a very grisly scene. We see that these people are hacking people up like it's a meat processing plant, you know? So very, very sick, gross stuff, I guess, in that sense. But anyway, Rick winds up going and shivving these two guys, whoever, getting free and taking them out. And basically with no weapons whatsoever except for whatever sharp, pointy sticks they can find, they have to go and fight their way through Terminus. Now, the termites, as I like to call them, they're obviously trying to go and push back the horde of zombies that are there. And even with automatic weapons, you still have to have the numbers. And this is like hundreds of zombies that are just crawling, they come walking in through this blown up fence that Carol blew up. So what I really liked is how everybody worked together. They went, and Rick and his group, Rick and that smaller group of Bob and Glenn and Daryl, eventually were able to get to the train car that everybody else was in, that, you know, Glenn and Maggie and, Maggie and Abraham and Eugene and all them that were in Michonne. And they have a bunch of makeshift shivs and weapons and everything like that. And as they're going, they're fighting their way through the horde of zombies and even taking out some of the termites, I guess you would say. They wind up coming up with some weapons and everything else. There's a scene where Rick just winds up going in Call of Duty style, like sneaks around behind a car, waits for a bunch of these Terminus guys to pass him by, grabs the guy at the end, shoots him, and then just guns everybody else down. He doesn't shoot him in the head, though. He just wounds them so they get dropped, and then the horde of zombies just come and rip them apart and just tear them apart, you know? And he's got that mentality of, fuck them, let them turn, you know? And it's really just like, it's the next level Rick that's here. It's like, you know what? These people were going to kill and eat us. I'm sorry, we're done. You know what I mean? There's no negotiating with them. There's no talking. He says they don't get to live. And I like that line. It was one of my favorites from this. They don't get to live. You see one of them, you kill them, because they won't hesitate to kill you, you know? So the brutality of the episode was very evident, but by the end of the episode, I thought it was nice. Everything wound up coming full circle. Tyrese, there was a great scene with him and the Terminus guy, I believe his name was Martin, that he had captured, where this guy went and was basically just trying to get a rise out of Tyrese, talking about how he's a good guy and good people are going to die. You're the type of guy that saves a baby, so you're going to die, you know? And eventually winds up getting his hands around the baby's neck, and that was another thing that I was not comfortable with. I have kids, and I'm just like, man, I don't want to see this shit. I don't even want you to hint and allude to the fact that this dude might snap a newborn's neck, right? He winds up getting Tyrese to go outside of this cabin that they're in, and there's zombies that are out there. And what I liked about this is Tyrese winds up eventually coming around and taking this dude, just beating him to a pulp or beating him to death or whatever. But you wind up seeing the aftermath of what happened outside, and there was a couple of like spikes and posts outside, and Tyrese just went and manhandled these zombies out there and just slammed them down on there like just crazy cracked up football player style, you know. So I thought that was nice, because Tyrese he's too nice of a guy. He's too soft in a lot of ways. He's too soft for this world. You can't get along with everybody, pal. You know, I know you're trying, but by the end of the episode, what I really enjoyed is this had a little bit of everything. You had some great action, you had some great character development, you had these characters working together as a cohesive zombie killing unit, so you had all the great zombie kills in there. You even had obviously some human kills of these termites, these crazy cannibalistic fuckers. And by the end of it, I thought it was great. You wind up having this wonderful, tearful reunion between Carol and the rest of the survivors. Now, remember, Rick exiled her back in the 4th episode of Season 4, and he really shouldn't have. I mean, he exiled her for basically doing the same type of shit that he had done. She just didn't ask for permission to do it. And Rick, we know, doesn't need to ask anybody for permission. He just fucking does, right? So I never agreed with the exiling of it, but then a couple days later, obviously the governor comes and takes down the prison, and ever since then, when she met up with Tyrese and the little crazy kids, or crazy kid, I guess I should say, and then he had Judith and everything, it was kind of ironic that the man that kicked her out of their camp and exiled her, she winds up saving his baby and actually helping to get him back. I mean, she did on several occasions save Judith and get them all reunited, you know. So I thought it was great. It was a wonderful, tearful, joyous reunion. You know, Daryl was crying, it looked like. You know, he's got that little scrunchy face that he's got. You see memes of all over the internet. all in all, it was an excellent episode, and I mean, if I was to give it a rating, it would be a 10 out of 10, man. It was absolutely probably my favorite, if not, definitely one of my top 3 episodes, you know. There was so many great things going on, and then, of course, by the end of it, everything comes full circle. Carol's not left alone in the woods like you think, and like you would, you know, come to believe. Because the way everything was played out is we saw her in Terminus last, but then everybody was out of Terminus, and you kind of were thinking, okay, they're going to miss each other again, right? And that didn't happen. I thought it was very good, and I thought it was nice to give us a win, because after leaving the fans hanging, the viewers hanging for 6 or 7 months with that bullshit of them being put in a train car, you knew there was really going to be no time lapse or time skip on that one, or if you did, it was going to be minimal, you figured, right? And I really thought the Terminus shit was going to go on for 4, 6, maybe even 8 episodes in this season. And it's nice to see everything come full circle, and then this place is burning to the ground, and everybody's reunited, and you get a win, finally. A win. Carol is back in the fold. Tyrese, you know, is back with his sister Sasha. We know that they're alive. You know, Carl and Rick wind up having their daughter, you know, the daughter and younger sister Judith, who they thought, you know, previously was dead. So very, very cool stuff. Just an excellent episode. And really, my question for you, brothers and sisters, is, did you think that this episode was good for a season premiere, or do you think that they wound up holding some shit back last season, giving us some filler, which I think they did, and do you think this should have been last year's season finale? Because it felt like a season finale to me. Let me know what your answer is to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I would also appreciate any type of feedback or comments. I'd like to do some more videos that are just outside of the actual episode reviewing of the episodic reviews for The Walking Dead, maybe some character profiles. If you have any ideas for those type of videos, like, hey, you know, who would be a better leader, or what if this scenario had happened, leave them in the comments down below, and certainly I'll take a look at them, because I could always use and look for and like to do, you know, fan type ideas as well. So, and I'd like to hear from you, the brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. So we will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation. Thanks for watching, and remember to check out my other channels and follow me on Facebook and Twitter as well.